Robin Hood Radio presents Flavor Matters with Serge Madikians. He's the owner of Serevan Restaurant in Armenia. If you can't find him in the kitchen or gardens, then follow him either on Facebook or Twitter at Serevan NY.
So, Serge, lots of people know you as chef and respect you as chef, but I don't. And many people know that you're a pilot, but I don't know if everybody knows that you're a pilot. And as we have been talking about these, what do people call them? Uncertain, unprecedented, unsettling. They all begin with times, but mostly it's unknown, with how to return to life during pandemic. You have come up with, I think, a very good parallel. So I don't know I know to call you chef in the restaurant, but I don't know, do I call you captain? Do I call you pilot?
I'm Serge and I cook for a living, and the only time I'm a chef is because I'm in the restaurant and a restaurant needs a leader. And that's really what a chef means, a leader, somebody in charge.
Chief.
Yeah, it doesn't make me any more important than the dishwasher. But somebody has to think about all the little details that one has to keep in mind when running a business. Listen, I mean, right now, if I were to use a pilot's analogy, we're at 7,000, 9,000 in a single engine airplane, and the four cylinders. Two of my cylinders are out, but two of my cylinders are functioning perfectly fine, and I have a little bit of a tailwind. So I am cruising and I'm coasting and and I have passengers, and I am very careful about looking and seeing where I could land my airplane. And landing the airplane would be, in this analogy, in this comparison, when the vaccine arrives, when this madness sort of subsides and we all have a sense of safety. But until then, elevation is my friend. It's true that my airplane is only on two cylinders rather than its usual four cylinders. And I have a little bit of a tailwind. So I would not attempt to land the airplane on any sort of a strip, especially because my airplane has landing gears, retractable landing gears. And if I land on any strip, that means I may damage my airplane. So I'm safe, I have a bit of a tailwind, and I'm taking all the precautionary measures. And we pilots say, this is one of the first things that many pilots told me when I was beginning my pilot lessons, flying lessons, is that there are old pilots and there are bold pilots, but there are no old, bold pilots. And that is one thing that I try to keep in mind on a daily basis, which is safety. You cannot be too safe given the current circumstances. And I think that's important for all of us to remember, all of us to keep in mind. And as I told you earlier, safety should be our primary objective, because if we stumble upon safety, then the business itself is going to suffer. And that defeats the purpose.
And are you finding that people by and large are aware of guidelines and are following direction as they?
Yes, 100%. And, I am, from my perspective, my little Serevan land that I call it, people are very cautious and very careful. And that is very reassuring. But the important thing to keep in mind, which keeps me up at night, and we have daily meetings, all of us, because I'm not the person that makes all the decisions. We make the decisions uh, um, as a group. Um, there's a lot of madness that's going on in the other parts of the world, and especially our country. Um, our neighboring states, not too far from us, the virus is raging, and there is interstate commute, there is airplane commute, uh, there are buses, there are trains. So it's
You're absolutely right, and it's funny because the way the human mind works is interesting when it comes to that because I had a situation with someone who was in Florida and he was trying to go to New Jersey and he didn't want to quarantine and um, and he wanted a bus ticket and that was essentially the end of the story is he ended up staying and getting more work in Florida. But sometimes when we talk about these things, people don't focus on how many different situations there are and how many different people you can encounter getting from A to B. And I think that there needs to be this is just my opinion, but a wider sense. I'm I have always marveled at how certain people just don't know how things work, and it goes back to the chicken. You can say to someone, they'll buy a chicken breast, an organic chicken breast from the store or the butcher or the farm or whatever, but there's very little connection to the actual chicken bird. That connection has been severed, let's call it, over time. And in many instances, the connection to what actually goes into something and the different steps and the different components is not what most people think of. They think about the end product, or I want a meal, I want to go there, I want to do this. And they don't think about, again, everything in between. And it's the everything in between which is where the potential for getting into difficulty, because no one's an island. We are still an interconnected society. And
I couldn't agree with you more. But luckily, we are in the tri-state area of Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New York, where, again, from my viewpoint, Serevan land, everyone is very respectful of that. There are a few individuals that don't think that mask is necessary, especially if you're outdoors. Few individuals that have to be reminded that it's important to keep your 6 feet apart, even if you have a mask on. But all in all, it's been a wonderful, assuring thing to see that more than 90% of the encounters, people are very careful about that. But, in relation to what you said, this disconnection, I think it's really important to understand or accept that, we are in our fifth month of sort of imprisonment. If you really think about it, it's psychological, emotional, sensual, human connection wise, human interaction wise. We've been imprisoned. And everything has become two-dimensional. Right now we are Zooming. I have gazillion meetings that are Zoomed or on the phone or with emails. So that 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional, 5-dimensional human interaction that we all are used to, we've been deprived of that. And yes, I may be an adult most of the time, but I still have cravings. I still have human fundamental needs of socializing and feeling warmth, seeing somebody's facial features in 3 dimensions, their hand movements, their body language, the way they say the words, that we all crave that. We all need it because we are still living human entities. So sometimes I think those needs get the best of us. And that is when I always, every morning when I wake up, I have to stretch and I have to give myself some time. I wake up with the sunrise because it helps me mentally and emotionally to welcome the day and gives me some time to settle my attitude, my disposition towards the day. Because like everybody else, I have frustrations, I have anger, I have extreme disappointment in all the conflicting messages that come from our leaders. What is right? What is wrong? What can we get away with? What can we not get away with? What should we do? What should we not do? What is safe? What is not safe? So it's important to take the time and get rid of all the unnecessary politicized information and decipher what is the important guideline here and what is the guideline that is going to take this airplane that is Serevan to its destination safely. And in order for me to be a safe business owner, I myself have to recognize on daily basis, because there's payroll. New York, I had to pay the sales tax. That's a huge chunk of money. It's not deferred. It's not, said, oh, you can make it in 2 payments or 3 payments. No, you have to make the payment.
Yeah,
So there
and you
are
have to. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you have to keep the lights on. I think that people who
yes,
have been in a
there are
business,
always costs.
yeah,
There's
they're
always
fixed.
financial needs.
Yep.
But you know what? If you do not, if I remind myself, this is my responsibility. If we're using the pilot analogy, this is my responsibility to make sure that my passengers on my flight are safe. That's my responsibility. It's no one else's responsibility. And I do my part. And again, if we use the pilot analogy, I do my part and I trust that the controller is doing his or her part.
Yeah.
As I'm flying to the Cape and Bradley gives me directions, then Providence gives me directions, then Boston gives me directions, then Cape gives me directions. I trust that they have my safety in mind, and they do. And that's the interesting point. When you're flying, FAA, the controllers have guidelines that they follow for safety of single engine private airplanes and the commercial big airplanes. So when they tell me to make a right turn or a left turn or descend 1,000 feet so the big jet can go by, they're doing it for my safety. They don't politicize my safety. But our safety now is politicized. And that is unfortunate. But the good news is that we, as individuals, as an individual business owners, we have the ability, we have the know-how to decipher, to distinguish the unnecessary information and hold on to the important safety measures. So again, as a pilot who listens to the directions of the control towers, I listen to the directions of the medical professionals, including my brother, who's a doctor. Our oldest brother is a doctor, teaching and working at UCLA for the last 30 years. So it's not only he, but a huge group of doctors that are dealing with this on a daily basis. I listened to his advice, and I listened to the Department of Health's directions from Dutchess County, and I listened to the medical professionals that are trying to help us as a nation to withstand the ravaging impact of this pandemic. It's ravaging. It's ravaging. And it's important to understand the danger of this virus is not just simply a cold. There is a Russian roulette element to this virus. Somebody asked me a few weeks ago, am I afraid to contract the virus? And why am I afraid to contract the virus? I'm afraid to contract the virus because I am the chef owner of this restaurant. If I contract it, I have to shut down my restaurant. If I shut down my restaurant, there are 5 people that are out of a job.
Which brings us, and that's precisely, we are out of time, sadly, but it brings us to the point of being connected to the ramifications. And I think that it's not too much to just ask everybody to think a couple steps ahead and who it's going to impact, because that might contribute to making, for the very few who are not focused on this, more, let's just say, community-oriented decisions.
No, this is, I mean, if there's anything, this global pandemic has shown us that there is no difference between any of us. Yes, I am an Armenian from Iran, but there is no difference between me, an American Indian, a Black American, a Latino American, a white American, a Jewish American, an Orthodox person, an unorthodox person. We're all human. That's the common denominator. And that's what the virus is attacking. It's attacking the humanness in us. It's not attacking my beliefs. It's not attacking my disposition. It's not attacking my political party. Can you imagine if I were a pilot and I was flying and the controller says, oh, he sounds like he's a Democrat. Oh, wait a second. He sounds like a liberal. Or wait a second. No, he sounds like a Republican. Let's send him this way. Let's send him that way. Like there would be airplane crashes all the time.
Yep, they'd be falling out of the sky.
Exactly.
Flavor Matters is a joint production of the Serevan Restaurant and Robin Hood Radio. For more information on the Serevan Restaurant in Armenia, New York, serevan.com on the web.